Welcome back to the On Business podcast. With tons of experience in different industries in Canada and the United States, Danielle and Brandon give you real talk, no nonsense expert advice about running and owning successful companies. Here's your host, Danielle Jenkins and Brandon White.
Started today with 6 things we wish we knew before we started our companies. And the truth is that we all wish that we could go back in hindsight. The thing about that is, thinking about it, Danielle, is sometimes we do multiple companies. So it's good to remind ourselves of these lessons because you can get easily sucked into this vortex of working in your business and not working on it. And people talk about that, but people don't talk about what it really means. So why don't you go first with for listeners, we've got 6 things. I've got a bonus, so that's going to make it 7 things. Danielle's going to go over 3, and I'm going to go over 3. So what do you got?
Okay, so first things first, you need to perfect your elevator pitch. Some will call this a mission. Some will call this a focus. We call it a mission in our company, the cleaning company that I have. But perfecting your elevator pitch is number one. And Brandon's probably going to say, well, what is that, Danielle? Honestly, you need to have something so unique that takes you guys or your company or your brand or business completely different and sells it literally right there and then. Our company, again, our mission is, bringing that professional and sophisticated service to the industry because unfortunately the industry doesn't have that. So you guys need to focus on, focus on your mission. You guys need to perfect your focus, your mission, your elevator pitch for your company. Before you even get started, you need to have a crystal clear idea of what that is. And that goes into number 2, where you're going to need to be clear on fixing a problem. And like Brandon said, that people are willing to pay for. For us,
I actually didn't say that, but you just blew my thing because we weren't recording then, did you?
No, but we were talking about this beforehand.
I know, but listeners don't know that. But anyway, just keep going. So for listeners, just be surprised when I give you my 3. Go ahead.
No, yours is way better. But yes, we need to fix a problem. You need to be clear on that from day one. Whatever the issues are within your industry or whatever your competition is, that's, you need to research that. You need to have a problem and fix it. Again, with us, using a cleaning company as an example, the number one issue in the industry is that there's a lack of professionalism and sophistication in every area, whether it comes down to employees, systems, processes, equipment, tools, supplies, whatever it may be. There's always that lack of professionalism and sophistication. So our company set out on the mission, the focus, or our elevator pitch would be that we have completely changed that, and we bring professionalism and sophistication to the industry. So again, you need to find a problem and fix it. And then number 3 for me, which I tell everybody and that I feel like is my number 1, actually, I guess I should have started with it, is being consistent with your branding from day one. Branding in today's day and age is number 1. Even if you have no clients yet, no customers, your branding needs to be on point, down to website, social media, and some may argue that social media is not a big thing. Again, this day and age, definitely important. It doesn't matter. People need to see you on all of those things. It needs to be consistent across the board, whether it's down to even fonts. And we have multiple episodes about branding, and so you guys can look at them and listen to them. But branding across the board is so important. Again, even if you don't have your first client or customer yet, if you are trying to sell them on your business, company, product, whatever it may be, they need to be able to look on Instagram, look online, look wherever and see your business, your branding, your logo across the board. So keep that in mind. There are tons of webinars, courses, things that you can take to perfect that and get in kind of everything that you need to get into. But that's my number one. I was so focused on that when I first started, and I'm still very focused on it to this day. I'm constantly keeping up with the new platforms, the new things like TikTok these days or Instagram these days. They don't like the pictures, they like reels. So you need to then transform that. So you need to keep up with it, but keep your branding consistent from day one all the way through. So those are my three. I hope that is helpful for everybody.
I think they're great. I think the branding thing is one that I probably learned later, but the thing about it is that it will make you look more, what's the right word? Not sophisticated. It will make you look further in your business journey if you're early, and compounding effect as you get older, just by having the look and feel. And the one thing that I learned is just get a color palette with complementary colors. And any designer, a good designer, not any, a good designer knows how to create that for you. And the effect is magical.
Yeah.
It is. It doesn't mean that just because you have complementary colors and good branding, if you can't solve the problem, you're screwed, because you are. But once you've done that, or you're in your process of figuring that out, people just take you more serious, and it's subconscious, but it works. And complementary colors, defining your font, and not being random gives the human mind, when they consume your brand, a
Trust.
feeling that this is put together, so they don't spend their brains don't spend time trying to figure out what this is, but rather spend time focusing on what you're doing and the problem you solve. So I know I'm harping on that, but I think it's a great one. It was not one of mine. My three are, number one, well, let's just continue the theme here. My number one is solve a problem and make sure that people will pay you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had a lot of misses on companies that I've solved a problem that people told me was their problem and wanted solved and wanted the solution, whether that was a product in some cases or a service. But then when it came time to pay, it wasn't a big enough problem that they were willing to pay for.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is you've got to prove that. And you've got to prove that, in my mind, before you raise money. You didn't raise any money. And for some of my companies, I didn't raise any money, but some of them I did. And the lessons learned there, it's not that there is a movement out there of bootstrappers to say, we're not taking venture money and this, that, and the other. The fact is that if your business is growing very fast, you will encounter a cash flow constraint, and you will need to get money from somewhere, whether you borrow it from yourself, whether you borrow it from a bank, whether you borrow it from a venture capitalist, whoever. My point is, make sure that you've proved that people were willing to pay you for it. And until you actually ask for their credit card, people are going to tell you, they're going to lie to you.
Yeah.
And they don't mean to lie. They just believe they have the problem because they're not having to put up the money. So that's my number one. Before you do anything, make sure that people are willing to pay you for your product. Number two is have a business plan. And I don't mean a 60-page written business plan. I don't mean a business plan that takes you 6 months and really delays your launch. I just mean a really basic, from what your problem is, what your solution is, how you're going to go to market, what the market is. And as importantly in all of that, build some semblance of financials in a spreadsheet, so that you can understand if the pricing you think that you can charge is going to be able to not only have a gross profit, but a net profit, and how much you can afford to pay for customer acquisition cost, so that you may be off a bit. You're going to have to make some assumptions, but at least you have some targets and some right life limits as you're going out into your creative process to build this company that has a product or service that solves a problem. I just think that all too often that people build this idea, and I did borrow this saying from my friend John, so I give him credit, but you become a self-licking ice cream cone. And you're like, my idea is the best. This company is going to be awesome. Everybody wants it. People have said they'll pay. And then that, now you've got 2 scoops in your self-licking ice cream cone, and you still haven't proved that they're going to pay you. And 2 is you don't know what the economics look like, because sometimes that building those financials for me hasn't made it not possible. But what it has said is, if we can't acquire customers for $129, then anything over that, it doesn't feel like someone's going to be able, they're not going to pay the price to solve the problem. So there's that dynamic, and at least puts it into a right left limit. It's not going to be exact, but build a business plan that is, you could start it on the back of a napkin, really, but get it on paper and get it out of your head, and do the spreadsheet. People don't want to do the spreadsheet because the spreadsheet's hard, and there's been plenty of businesses that probably didn't do the spreadsheet, but you are doing the spreadsheet. Even you, Danielle, in your story, I never heard that you actually went into Excel or Google Sheets and did it, but I do know that you did the math on the back of a napkin that said, if I can get X amount of customers, I make X amount of money on each one. In fact, you did do the math, because what you eventually realized, which maybe you would have avoided, was a pricing issue where you would say, hey, I'll clean your house for $129, and it became 9 hours worth of work because you didn't define that thing. The math you did was, I can only spend 4 hours, and now I need to charge this way. So that's the type of thing that I'm using your example in the spreadsheet. For mine, it's a current company that we're building that helps you find files that you have but can't find faster. And it's basically our expenses. We have storage costs, and we know that we have to charge a customer X. And if we can't get a customer at X price, then we can't make money. Right. And then it becomes a different, if we're going to pursue the business, it becomes a different model. In our case, we actually can, but thank God we built that model. And then my third tip is hire the best people. Mm-hmm. And this is for people who are listening who already have businesses. This still can be challenging. For people who have early stage businesses and are cash constrained, this advice will sound impossible, but I challenge you to figure out a way where you make it possible, because you need to hire the best people. Yeah. That just plain and simple. You've got to hire the very best people, because the cost of churning people and getting them up to speed again is just, in the long run, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I know we're facing that challenge right now in the company that I'm starting, and we need a really good developer. And we all sat around the Google Meet saying, but we don't have enough money. And at the same token, the conversation comes around on one partner, Dan. He's like, hey, look, and Sergey actually too, we are not going to hire a very qualified developer. I don't know how we're going to get the money. We're all going to chip in, or we're going to do something, but we have to do this, because otherwise we delay, if not never get to where we're going. So hire the very best people. Yeah. And my bonus, because I couldn't follow your directions and do just 3, is have a support group, meaning have a founders group. We've talked about this in another episode. Sometimes they're called mastermind, founders groups. You were part of accountability groups, but have a group of peers, and not just peers in the sense that they're business owners, but groups that have people way ahead of you that make you sort of uncomfortable, but as importantly, hold you accountable, because you're just going to get a ton of ideas out of those things. You're going to say your goals publicly, which is going to make you show up and not have 5 excuses why you didn't do it. And the people are going to not just hold you accountable and be critical, which you need, but also support you. So find a group, whatever that is, and make it happen. I think having a one-on-one coach is, for some things in your life, maybe helpful, but I think in what I am talking about here is a group of peers that is probably 5 or more people that you meet with monthly, at least monthly. More than that can be a lot, and hold you accountable, and where you're setting those goals publicly and they hold you accountable to actually get to them. And I think in the other episode I said it's like getting on your Peloton, and all on that little volume thing, you can have more instructor, and you're just listening to the instructor and you're sort of getting going. And then all of a sudden you turn on your music in your Sonos, and you turn on AC/DC, and all of a sudden your watch goes up 75 watts for no good reason other than you just turned on the music. And that's what those groups can do for you.
Yeah.
And it's priceless in the ROI that you get from it, regardless of the cost.
I agree. Well, I think those are all great tips. Definitely some things I wish I knew sooner rather than later, but definitely important things that I learned along the way. And that's why they're so valuable to me. And even in some of the mentorship that I do now, those are number one, or I guess the top 3, but those are the number ones that I do recommend to everybody doing before they even start.
Cool. Well, if you have a great tip and you're listening, drop us a line and let us know, and we will read it on the show in an upcoming episode, along with your name and a promotion for your business.
Ooh.
Danielle, there you go. You see, I pulled that out right there. Danielle, have a good week.
You too.
Bye, everyone.